We have an esteemed panel with us. We have Swamiji with us. Swamiji, as many of you know, Swami Samarpanananda Giri, in his pre-monastic life, was a political science professor. And as we discuss today, the link between science and spirituality, the science of breath. In addition to Swami Samarpanananda Giri, we have two other panelists. I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Giresh Kanji. Dr. Kanji is a musculoskeletal pain specialist and a researcher. He explored the sensory amplification of pain in his PhD, including the role of human stress response. He recently wrote a book entitled Brain Connections, which was the New Zealand bestseller in 2019. Welcome, Dr. Kanji. And the next panelist is Professor Vishaal Kishore. Professor Kishore is also a Kriyavan. So I'm really blessed to welcome Professor Kishore. But interestingly, he is not only the Professor of Innovation and Public Policy at RMIT University, but he is also the director of the Health Transformation Lab there. He holds a PhD from Harvard University. And welcome to you, Professor Kishore. Now, in the next phase, what I'm planning to do is as follows. I will dwell a little bit on why we selected this topic of the science of breath. As you might know, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji stressed often that science and spirituality are not opposing principles. In a speech entitled Practice Religion Scientifically, delivered on 18 February 1940, he states, one virtue of a true scientist is that he is open-minded. He is willing to consider any new evidence which has come to light. He further asserts, in the future, religion everywhere will be a matter of experimentation. It will not solely be based on belief. Please note, this is what he stated on 18th February 1940. On numerous occasions, he mixed with great scientists of his time. Some of his assertions are becoming commonplace now, as mindfulness meditation are routinely prescribed to provide therapy for mental health issues. Also, scientists are exploring the link between our breath and our emotional and physical well-being. Considering this background, let me ask the panelists regarding their view on this convergence between science and spirituality. I will start off with Swami Samarpanananda Ji, and I will start off with the ancient science. And this question relates to why our masters have stressed on the breath and being breath aware. So Swamiji, why do you think breath is so important in Kriya practice?
Beloved Gurudev said, your breath is your beauty, your breath is your life, your breath is your vital force, your breath is your life and love. Quoting scriptures one day said, Tumeva Vayu Pratyakhyam Brahmasi. God, the invisible, formless, where he lives, nobody knows. Only the realized masters they knows. What we for the common man to feel. But breath in the body, if not visible, it is felt every moment, in every 4 seconds. Body is visible. We work through it. Mind is not visible, but we feel its functioning. Sadness, happiness, gloomy condition, melancholy. Mind, battleground, or you can call a playground of the thoughts, feelings. But breath. When people ask, where is the God? Gurudev said, soul is within, no doubt. That is the theory of the scripture. And God is here. I give you the practical scientific evidence. If the breath is there, you are alive. If the breath is not there, you are dead. Gurudev said, breath is the real representative of the soul within. And he emphatically said, the breath its existence is the best evidence of the holy existence of the God. That is the science behind the breath. Further, scholars of breath they found in ancient days and even in the last yesterdays that a breath and the mind they are correlated to each other. Restless in the mind is connected to restless with the breath. Three important cases of the animals they presented, living beings. The monkey breathes so faster, around 32 times per minute, and is very restless. You can see from his head reading to here and there. Very, very restless. Therefore, people say monkey mind. But the man inhales, exhales, around 15 times a minute. But the tortoise, 4 times per minute. And find out the longevity of the tree and peacefulness of the tree. Man can decrease the number of the breath through the practice of pranayama, can increase the number of breath, become a monkey, not practicing yoga and kriya yoga. Every day, 21,600 breaths are given to us. That is our breath capital every day. If we can conserve some of them through the practice of kriya, our breath capital will increase. So the choice for you, whether you become a Bill Gates of breath or a beggar of the breath. Death, breath, and path are related. Through the breath, through the practice of pranayama, one can conquer mortality and the death, meaning can evaporate, can extinguish the seeds of the karma from the chitta. And that is the way why pranayama and kriya takes us in the direction of divinity. And one day, every practitioner of kriya, if he does lovingly surrendering to the Guru, can knock at the lion gate of the liberation. Breath. That is why Paramahansa Yoganandaji gave us a calculus, kriya calculus. Practice 8 hours and 30 minutes, this much of gain. He has clearly said, one man takes 1 million life to reach a stage of the brain where he can capture the supreme consciousness. But in this life, within 3 years, if you practice kriya in that way, longer year, longer hours, sensually with the love to the master, then you can gain that beautiful transformation, the prize of the evolution. To wait for longer years, million years, to gain that brain power, or to gain it today through the practice of kriya. That is why my masters, our loving master of the lineage, gave emphasis on breathing through pranayama orientation.
Thank you, Swamiji. That was very insightful and very, very profound spiritual knowledge. Now I will ask a slightly different question to our panelist, Dr. Kanji. Dr. Kanji, welcome, and thanks for your time to be present in this celebration of a great monk from India and his life and his teachings. So essentially, how the ancient science and what is taught by our yogis, is there any correlation between that and modern science?
Absolutely. I think as in the last 20 years, I've done a lot of research into stress and pain. And ultimately, in fact, in that time, it's led to the fact that our breathing is extremely important and what happens during our breath. So firstly, when we take a deep breath in, we basically relax our brain and the stress chemicals in the brain reduce. And when we breathe out slowly, we again reduce the activity of our brain stress chemicals. So the deep breaths in and out are in fact vital to our calm sense of mind. And exactly as the Guruji stated, if you breathe fast, it signals your brain that there's stress going on. And if you can switch your breath like that to breathe slowly, what actually happens is your brain all the chemicals in your brain calm down. And this is an essential part of life. And so firstly, in the first slide, when we look at stress-related symptoms such as headache, when we look at migraine, insomnia, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, even anger, what we're actually looking at is electrical signals in different parts of our brain. And that's exactly the chemicals. What happens is the stress chemicals have a stress response which is designed for the tiger. We see the tiger, and then suddenly our stress chemicals go up. 6 stress chemicals, in fact, are released in the brain, and they attach to all parts of your brain, opening up electricity. And this is why, and nowadays, stress is released from poor sleep, pain, stress itself, and concentration as well, which a lot of people don't realize. So if you spend hours and hours concentrating, your brain releases stress chemicals. The 6 stress chemicals attached to every part of your brain. And then throughout your body, you basically release adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, so stress chemicals throughout your body. Now, all this is designed to make us run and fight and sweat. Unfortunately, if we undergo prolonged stress, this whole response means that our stress brain and stress body actually grow. And when they grow for the rest of your life, you're going to enhance your stress response. So any given stress, you release double the stress chemicals. And, this brings us to an absolutely, an incredible, and it's funny, I've studied for 20 years, in fact, 27 years at university in different courses. And a lot of it's come down basically to the breath in terms of solutions to these health problems. If we could have the next slide, Partha. And in studying this, what I've realized actually is that in meditation, it's actually the deep breathing in and out that actually relaxes the brain. And as the Guruji said, there's been studies done which have taken people breathing sort of 5 times a minute, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, and they can actually measure the stress brain using heart rate variability. And what they find was if you're breathing fast, your stress brain is in overdrive. And when you breathe slowly, basically your mind relaxes, your brain waves change, and it invokes some calmness. The other thing which I'm going to mention, and I don't want to be too scientific, but 20% of our brain is also designed to turn the electricity off. And it produces a Valium-like substance to turn the brain off. And this is calming. So when I learned this, when I was writing Brain Connections about 1.5, 2 years ago, I was stunned, and I thought, wow, I didn't know this. Like 20% of every nerve in the brain turns the brain off. And what the research found was in conditions such as insomnia, anxiety, depression, and stress-related disorders, this chemical that turns the brain off is reduced up to 52%. And some of the studies showed me that they pitted basically meditation versus reading a book, and one was meditation versus watching television. And what they found was that the meditation increased this chemical that basically calms the brain. And in fact, I started meditating. When I read this, I thought, wow, this is quite incredible. So I started at 20 minutes and then moved to 40 and 60 minutes. And when I first started, I remember it took 20 minutes just to get to that blissful blank state in your mind. And then the next 20 to 40 minutes, the brain would calm down completely. And now, once you've had practice, it's certainly much easier. And I think the ancient arts and ancient words are, in fact, words of wisdom that, even though it's taken 27 years to understand, but we really must need to spread this word around the world to people because we really are leading very high stress connected lives, and lives full of, I think, ideals and wants that really, once we calm our brains down, I think we can actually sit back and look at our lives a lot easier with a calm mind and navigate a way forward that's without, some of the bad traits, some of the wanting for objects and things like that. But if you're stuck in that mind that's busy, it's actually very difficult to see your way forward. And so what I also learned was the 5 habits that basically reduce your stress brain are exercise, Tai Chi, yoga, and heat. Now, heat such as sauna, spas, and baths, in fact, release the stress brain. And this is why people in Fiji and parts of India are much more relaxed than people in Europe, especially in the Scandinavian countries and even in New Zealand. So it's really it's actually weird and funny, really, that you spend a long time doing the study, looking at all the little nitty gritty receptors and brain and how it works, and it comes down to something very, very simple. And and it is lifelong habits that are going to keep us grounded, actually, and keep us healthy, and not health systems, governments. They're not responsible for our health, and I think this is what people need to know, that meditation and breathing can reduce cancer by a third. Even those sort of illnesses, heart disease, diabetes, we're talking insomnia, anxiety, depression. We're talking a lot of things. And as we live to ripe old ages, we want to be active and well. We really need to look after ourselves. And it's every human being's responsibility to look after themselves. And hopefully it's my job and others to educate people of why and what to do and how frequently.
This brings me nicely to my other panelist, Professor Vishaal Kishore. Vishaal Baba is also a Kriyavan. So my question now, Dr. Kanji mentioned that we need to help ourselves. But as an expert on public policy and being the director of the Health Transformation Lab, we listen to the ancient science, the modern science. Now, what do policymakers, what will they do? How will they respond to this kind of convergence that is happening between ancient science and modern science? What's your view, Vishaal Baba?
So, in our tradition, we've always used the language of science, haven't we? So, Sri Yukteswarji, his beautiful book, The Holy Science, Yoganandaji, as Partha Baba mentioned on several occasions, talked about the science of spirituality. And what are our masters talking about when they are telling us about this special relationship between science and spirituality? I think humbly that there's something about method that they're telling us about. There's something about how we should approach spirituality that I think they are encouraging us to think about. They're telling us to be experimental with our own minds, with our own consciousness. At one point, I remember Guruji once saying, when somebody was asking him about, what are the gains of meditation? Should I do it? Why should I keep doing it? He said, you do it today. If you like how it feels, you do it tomorrow. If you like how it feels, do it the next day. Experiment. So there's something about an experimental method that we see a lot in modern science that is really part of what we do in Kriya Yoga and in many of the ancient meditation traditions. I think the second thing that it's pointing to is cause and effect. So I think what modern science is often looking to do is saying, look, I don't want to take things on faith. I want to try something and see I want to do a thing and see what the effect of the thing is. And I think, again, this is something that our masters are pointing to us with Kriya Yoga, that there's something about the ancient traditions that also embrace this cause and effect relationship. The difference, though, from the ancient science and up until quite recently, the modern science, is that the ancient scientists of the mind and of breath were very interested in the internal journey. The ancients closed their eyes, they blocked their ears, they went inside, and they tried to understand the macrocosm by understanding deeply inside. The modern scientists are very obsessed about the outside. What are the laws of motion of physical bodies? What are the rules of nature and external events? They turned this cause and effect study and this experimentalism outside. And the only way that they were really able to understand what was going on inside is through sciences like psychology, where we try to take and understand the subjective experience in a different kind of way. And I think what the fantastic work of Dr. Kanji is a lot of the excellent work that Dr. Kanji has been undertaking, and that many other scientists, modern scientists, are now understanding, is that the inside and the outside are not as clear and different as modern science often thought. The subjective and the objective cannot be separated quite as much. It turns out to be the case that what's going on inside my own mind and inside my own experience has all kinds of effects on my external health, as Dr. Kanji was telling me, and as the yogis and the traditional scientists have known for a very long time. Modern science is also catching up with the idea that actually the person who is looking, the subjective person, that the observer, and this is something in science that we call the observer effect now, that how we understand something really depends on how we look at it and from where we look at it. And this is something, again, that the ancient yogis and that our masters have been saying for quite some time. So in all kinds of ways, be it in biology, be it in psychology, be it in physics, and Parth also is understanding some of this in machine learning and consciousness. In all kinds of ways, modern science is understanding and re-understanding that many of the things that ancient science has been telling us, actually, it turns out to be the case that modern science ultimately says some very similar things. So there's a coming together in a really lovely way. And as Yoganandaji suggested that there would be, it's so amazing. There's a beautiful coming together of East and West in respect of science. So nice. And what does all of that mean, to get a little bit more practical? In the world of public policy and governmental action, Dr. Kanji is saying we have some personal responsibility in respect of our health. And surely he's right. And we change, our masters are telling us so many times that if we want to change the world, we should start by changing ourselves. And this is the same thing that Dr. Kanji is saying. If we want to change the world, we should focus on how we live, what our habits are, how we practice, what we do. So nice. It's also the case that our health systems and our governmental systems have been not so much focused on the great things that Dr. Kanji has been talking about. And we are coming to realize more and more that if we focus ourselves differently, maybe we would have very different outcomes. Let me give you some examples. So for all of this technological advancement that we have, for all of this economic development that we've been enjoying, for all of the standard of living improvements that we are having around the world, are we any happier? Are we any more at peace with ourselves? Can we honestly say that the way that people are more at peace, more at home in the world, more flourishing, more loving, more kind, better human beings? I think it's difficult, even in the face of so much development, in front of so much technology. And our economic systems, our healthcare systems are built around the imagination that if we have more development, if we have more technology, if we live just a little bit longer, actually, this is better human life. And I think maybe some of what Dr. Kanji is pointing us towards is that we need to rewire some of those systems. And so much of this current pandemic, I think almost everybody on this call will have been in lockdown in some form or another. Even Samarpanananda Baba in India, they're still locked down. We're locked down in Australia. You're on lockdown, although it's coming a little bit looser in New Zealand. I think we have some Americans here too. They're also locked down, mostly in some ways. And I think actually we have performed the world's biggest experiment in history of, are people okay in their own selves? Are they able to be happy when they don't have the supports and the crutches of the external world that we are used to? And I think in so many ways, we are realizing probably not as happy as we could be. If you look at governments around the world, we're starting to realize, oh God, mental health concerns. The fourth wave of the pandemic, we keep calling, is a mental health pandemic problem, a mental health demand. A real, we are recognizing, isn't it, that when we cannot engage in the world in the way that we're used to, if we have built the wrong habits, as Dr. Kanji might tell us, we have built the wrong habits. So our habits are, I feel funny, so I go and do some shopping, or I go down I go out with friends and I go and I socialize in a particular kind of way. I think we're finding anecdotally, and more research is coming out in this regard, that those people who are most resilient to this situation and most doing well in this situation are people who have cultivated a different kind of relationship with themselves. People who can be alone in their homes, but never feel alone because they are comfortable with their breath. They have a vibrant relationship with their inner self. They may be isolated, but they are never alone. As Guruji is often telling us, solitude and seclusion is the price for greatness. So it's a little bit like this. So I think more and more a focus on mental health in our public policy, a focus on understanding the nature of human connection, what is good company, what is bad company, is something that we're thinking more and more about in our health systems. We're thinking about reformulating the relationship between the system and personal responsibility. And we're giving new and different kinds of tools to individuals to be able to make themselves resilient and make themselves able to cope with circumstances that they find themselves in. For me, all of these public policy moves are there, and they are nothing other than the expression of a new understanding between Western science and the traditional science of the East. Thank you, Partha Baba. I'll pause there. Hopefully that made some sense and answered your question.
Thank you, Vishaal Baba. Wonderful insights and very beautiful insights. When New Zealand came out of the level 4 lockdown, midnight Monday, on Tuesday, we completely overwhelmed our McDonald's in New Zealand. So now McDonald's have stopped operating because they ran out of resources. So very pertinent point. Thank you. Thanks for making that. Now I will open the floor for questions. This has been a wonderful conversation, a conversation on the ancient science of yoga and breath and the modern science. Now, and we also talked through Vishaal Baba's comments a little bit about the public policy. Now, I would like to ask Swami Samarpanananda Ji, who is a breath scientist on the inner science of the breath, but he has been struggling with his breath as a young child with health issues. And I would like to ask Baba how he overcame, how he was able to overcome this, and how did Kriya help him in his personal journey, particularly when he had such a serious impairment on the health side. And I hope, Baba, you don't mind me asking this question.
The first day I met beloved Gurudev, I was charmed. But the second time when I met beloved Gurudev, in the course of his discourse, he just showed his hands like this. We ordinarily breathe like this. Our lungs is not contracting, not expanding as it is supposed to be. Practice Kriya, expansion, expansion, expansion chest to its optimum percent. Contraction, contraction, contraction to optimum quality. That is the beginning of my quest. Can this breathing style bring about a change to the function in my chest? which was little bit impaired, which was little bit crippled by a major surgical operation on 2nd May 1964. I was grasping. I talked to him, and I talked to Sri Guruji when he was not a monk. He gave me some, say, examples. I read some of the books. I started doing it, little bit faultier or something like that. But when I got the Kriya Yoga, I got the beauty of expanding the chest and contract the chest to its fullest capacity, and again a strength unbelievable. And that is the beauty, and that is the thing why I bow to my beloved Guruji, my beloved Gurudev, every moment, absolute faith in him. People talked of faith. Faith is a little bit different. Beliefs are temporary, provisional. But a provisional belief, when well tested by the science of the time, that became a part of the faith. That is why Sri Guruji one day said, entirety that is called Upanishad, entirety that is called the scriptures of ancient India, they are based on faith, on the foundations of science. To make it clear, he said, knowledge, jnana, knowledge of the number and the letters. Vijnana, little bit more, deeper, functioning of the earth, function of the universe, the inner laws, material laws. Then prajnana, to the laws that is above the letter and number, above this particular 5 elemental drama, that is called the knowledge of the soul. Believing this, I understand. Any one of us can increase its chest power and the brain power as well. More chest power, more oxygen will go to the brain, more fertility, more memory. If today world is demanding improved memory power, Kriya is the best panacea for that.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you so much. We have seen personally how you have been able to practice Kriya in spite of the impairment on your physical front, and how you could overcome those impairments and be successful as a Kriya monk traveling throughout the globe incessantly, your activity not stopping. And we all respect you for that, Baba. Thank you. A quick question for Giresh. Giresh, can you shed some light on your book, Brain Connections, and what you talk in that book, and if that is at all relevant for the discussion today?
Firstly, I'd like to comment on the memory. As mentioned, stress chemicals actually reduce the part of our brain which subserves memory and concentration, the hippocampus. So in fact, the stress chemicals shrink that part of our brain, and in studies where they've had MRI scans of people with depression and without depression, and also insomnia, anxiety, they've found that part of the brain has shrunk. And so the Swami is indeed correct that the Kriya, the breathing, the yoga, in fact, expand that part of your brain. And in one study of people who are 65, 2 groups, one group started exercising regularly and one group didn't. And in fact, what they found was after 6 months, their brains actually grew. So indeed, the memory and the breathing are instrumental in improving our memory. Now, the book I wrote, there's 2 of them. There's one which is full of medical references, and it's called Brain Connections, a Science and Solutions for Insomnia, Anxiety, Depression. They're both on ebooks actually now. We've just produced ebooks over this 4 or 5 weeks we've had off. Give me a lot of time, which is great. And the next book is on just sleep well and energize, a no pills approach. Because being a medical doctor, ultimately medications can be useful, and sometimes they help in the start, but ultimately it's a person's habits that are going to get them through many health problems that they face. One of the things I believe is that when, what we want to do is influence people to change behavior, to do Kriya, to breathe, to do yoga. And often, people need to know why they're doing it. Yeah, they actually need to know, well, why should I do breathing or practice meditation? Why should I do yoga? Or why should I exercise? Why should I take half an hour to an hour out every day and do that when I could be doing online shopping or working more? And so I think for me as a health practitioner, and I think for everybody, we need to teach people why they need to change their behavior and what's in it for them as well. What will happen to them? And the research shows 8 weeks of breathing or 8 weeks of exercise, 4 or 5 days a week, and the depression can reduce like 80% almost. It's phenomenal. So the power is greater than any medicines we've got. And so like if they're on ebooks, and as I said, if people would like to know more and explore more of the science, if you are interested, then the Science and Solutions may be the one for you if you're a researcher or scientist and you want to know where the knowledge came from. So I fully reference that one. The other one's a very, very simple to read 2-hour book, which has all the knowledge of the first book in it, and it's only available as an ebook now. Thanks for the plug, Partha.
Thank you, Giresh. As you were speaking, some questions have come up for the panelists. So let me start with Vishaal Baba. There is a question regarding, could this kind of teachings, being aware of our breath and practicing meditation, etc., shouldn't it be part of our curriculum?
Oh,
there is a
beautiful.
question from one of our
so nice. So I can answer this question really quickly. Yes. But also I can answer a little bit longer. Yeah. So I think, so I'm just to be clear, I have read a fair bit of Dr. Kanji's work. I've watched some of his videos, very nice. And one of the things that he points to that I really enjoyed is he keeps talking about habits. Even on this call, he's done the same thing. So the question is, so we know that actually doing some meditation, it's not something that we do. It's not like taking a pill. It's not like do it once and then all of a sudden many, many benefits will come. It must become a habit. It must become something that we do for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, our entire lives. Of course, the same message is the same one that Samarpanananda Baba gives us every time he runs a Kriya program. Change your life. If you change your life, you transform your life, you'll transform your whole experience of everything. And I think the question then is, what does it take to help people to develop the right kinds of habits, the right kinds of practices, the right sorts of hardwiring these things into the way that people live? And so often, isn't it the case that we remember we are most shapeable, we're most malleable when we're young? And so many on the call will know, and of course, Samarpanananda Baba has spent so much time, and as Guru Priyanandamaya has also. Guruji has created the school, Balashram, School for Children in India. And there they are learning, such beautiful children learning such beautifully rounded curriculum, where they are also being taught breath practices, yogic practices, along with their regular curriculum. So it's definitely possible. Indeed, in the West, in the United States, in certain, probably I imagine also New Zealand, they're teaching meditation instead of detention in schools and generating unbelievable results right there, even at that young age. But you can imagine that if children have these tools from such a young age, the entire trajectory of their life, the whole curve is twisted more positively. So one intervention, so Partha Baba, the question is beautiful. Yes, it should be part of the curriculum. It should be part of the curriculum from schooling onwards as just a life skill, in the same way that running, jumping, skipping, hopping is part of what we do. But not just in the schools, because it must be, as Dr. Kanji would tell us, and as Swamiji would say, and as all of our masters have told us over and over again, it's not just for a small period. It's not just for a short period of time. It's for your whole life. So we need to find ways to hardwire it into the rest of our system. And indeed, isn't it the case that this lockdown period has caused, I mean, anecdotally, many of us will know this. People are doing online Zoom meditations, and people are meeting Tibetan masters and Indian teachers, and all of these things are happening. People are making time for their meditation. They're making time for their walks, because they're recognizing that when concentrating in this format in a lockdown situation, something goes wrong. It doesn't feel as good. So we must build it into our everyday lives in a particular kind of way. And you see a lot of this great work going on in prisons as well. Just to remember that it's never too late. We should do it early, but it's never too late to hardwire it into other parts of our system. Prisons are using meditation, using song, ecstatic song and kirtan, which we'll have some from Melma later. So that'll be amazing. It's always my favorite thing about spending time with the New Zealanders is Melma's voice. But one of the things that we found in prisons is meditation, chanting, and these kinds of practices can make a really big difference. And we should be reminded of the lives of some of the devotees of Paramahansa Ramakrishna and many other masters. The way that one can be a murderer, one can do all kinds of things, but if one adopts the right kind of mindset, adopts the right kinds of practices, one can be unhealthy. One can be unhealthy in mind, in action, in physicality, but we can create new habits and we can transform ourselves.
Wonderful. That is sort of leading me. Thank you, Vishaal Baba. That's beautiful. And that's leading me to a question which is for Giresh, which is, now you talked about stress and how it affects our stress brains. Now the question is, with positive things like Vishaal Baba is saying, could those negative effects on the brain be reversed, or are they permanent?
Absolutely. This is I'm really, really pleased actually with the research, because as I said, parts of our stress brain and body can grow when we have a lot of stress related problems and lead to problems for the rest of our lives. However, if we do these habits and calm the stress brain, it actually shrinks, and it can in fact leave you for the rest of your life with a very calm mind. And as Vishaal mentioned, that it really does take habits and some discipline, to lead a life where you have a habit. Like during the lockdown, just the day before the lockdown, I usually go to the gym most days of the week. But before the lockdown, I went out and got myself a little exercycle type thing. And, every day for 20 minutes, I wake up and just get on it. And it's sort of like, it's just a habit. And I think it's very, very encouraging that, and I've treated patients for 10 to 20 years to use heat and breathing and meditation. And I come across these people, 6, 7, 8 years later, sometimes they're going to the sauna, and their lives have changed. They just sleep better, they're calmer. And I think it's about taking, it's about spreading this word. I think one of the problems with public policy is, if the medical profession don't really know how we get insomnia, anxiety, depression, or stress-related symptoms, if we don't know the A to Z of it, we don't really know the intervention points. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy doing, is trying to look at the puzzle and look at all the little pieces and see how they fit together. And once you find out how they fit together and think, hey, that makes a lot of sense, then you can start looking at public policy to cut at different points. And I think that's what actually has been missing, is that the science has been lagging the ancient knowledge by a long, long way. And I think, and it's only hopefully now people, and that's why I wrote the book, so the knowledge gets put into print, so other people can look at it, and basically we can, and I'm glad, like I think we'll be working with Vishaal and looking at shaping public policy based on this knowledge, because ultimately governments want sort of scientific knowledge. They want to know reasons why this sort of policy would help. And there's so many things that can be done for the prison population, schools, etc.
Giresh, there is a follow-up question, so that's why I'm raising my hand. I don't want to interrupt you. Beautiful stuff. I mean, you have mentioned to me several times that instead of prescribing antidepressants, we should be giving free gym memberships to people. And I think that is also related to what you said. But just now there is a question, which is like, how much of exercise is optimal? Could exercise also hurt? Could it be harmful to the body? So that is a very nice question like that. Maybe someone is calling. Okay. No.
So, firstly, if you think about the stress chemicals designed for the tiger, they're designed for us to run, fight, and sweat. And so the more intense the exercise, the better. Sort of 20 to 30 minutes intense exercise, and that could be weights or aerobic exercise like running or swimming. 4 or 5 days a week is excellent. That's the sort of dose of intense. Now, if you do a little bit not as intense, you want to do around 40 minutes, 4 or 5 days a week. I think that's a really good dose. It's actually similar to the dose of breathing. 40 minutes a day is about a very good dose to calm the stress brain down. And that's a sort of a minimum dose. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm conscious that I'm a little over time because we started a little bit late, and being Guruji's disciple, I would like to keep things to time. That's one thing that I've learned from him, that at least I practice. So, so I would like to keep things to times. But one last question for Swami Samarpanananda Ji, just to wrap everything up, because I think that links very nicely to the discussion we have had, which is, you spoke about being aware of our breath, but what does that mean exactly? How to be aware of our breath? Because, okay, we can be aware of our breath during meditation. In deep meditation, we forget to be aware of our breath, which is desirable. But how to be aware of our breath daily as we live in day-to-day circumstances? Swamiji.
It's a very good question. To be aware of the breath, to what they say, breath consciousness. Sri Guruji has a very beautiful prescription. Sit somewhere, roll back the tongue, tune yourself to divine sound, and watch your breath. If you consider the inhalation and exhalation process is a beautiful conveyor belt. Place Gurudev there. He will be going in and coming out. Fix your attention on Gurudev. In the process, your breath awareness is beautifully achieved. Number second, while walking alone in a very backhand mood or a cheerful mood, walk, pause, inhale, walk, pause, exhale. Holding a little in between the two can give you beautiful rhythmic experience of the flow of the inhalation and exhalation. Number three, hold a book or a newspaper, read it, watching your breath. The very minor friction that takes place with the inhalation and exhalation. If you are not able to do, place your index finger, watch the warmth of the flow of the breath. Is it going to the lower, down of the lower lips, going below the chin, going below, or slowly coming up and up and up to the upper part of the lips, upward journey. When the inhalation, exhalation become symmetrical and small, life become noble. Watch, try. We have to try. I am trying, failing every moment, faltering every moment, but I follow the Master. I will never leave you. I will see you. That is the spirit. Come what may, let us watch. I wish Kishore said that it should be a part of the curriculum in the school and the public life. It should be a part of the home curriculum. Mother, father, children sitting together, practice it. Dr. Giresh Kanji, I salute him. Brain connections. Let him continue to write more books, draw us nearer to spirituality. A time will come, the chasm between the spiritual and science will be annulled, and they will become integral parts. I mean, two sides of one coin, love, love the God. Thank you.
Thank you, Baba. Such wonderful insights. I thank all the panel members. There are still plenty of questions, but I have to stick to Guruji's principles and move this along. We will not forget your questions, friends. I apologize that I'm not able to take all the questions for the panel to be respectful for time. But we will pass it on to the panel members, and maybe I can summarize this response by email to the Kriya list.